of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Howard.
Mr. Chairman, could we move 9A ahead of 9 for ease of discussions?
Take that as a motion. Is there a second?
The family's here, and if we could just talk about granting them permission to remove their personal property and then get on to the discussion about what happens to the actual property.
Take that as a motion, yes?
Yes.
So if there's a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, so we'll switch that around.
Thank you.
Item 3, rules of order. We follow Robert's Rules of Order and other rules that we developed during the organizational meeting. Item 4, adoption of Ellsworth City Council minutes, 12/7/22 special council meeting and 1/9/23 regular council meeting.
Move approval. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Item 5, city manager's report. Manager, motion.
Yes, good evening. Just a couple of quick announcements. First off, just to let the public know that City Hall will be closed on February 20th in observance of President's Day. I'd just like to congratulate the Ellsworth High School cheerleaders who won their first ever Class B state championship over the weekend. And lastly, the Ellsworth Area Chamber of Commerce is challenging residents to spend $20 on the 20th at one of Ellsworth's many different shops and stores. We encourage all residents to participate and support local business.
Any questions? All right, item 6, committee reports. Any counselors attend committees that they want to report on?
The rec committee met last month. There was some talk of DeMeyer and Wilson fields and maintenance needed. There does not seem to be a long-term maintenance plan, and we're discussing with the YMCA that partners provides insight to those fields, a work plan moving forward. The rec committee is hoping to expand applications. The rec through is sort of a pass-through for the city funds to fund different rec activities by different organizations like the YMCA. So we're hoping to standardize an application to let people know what the rec committee is looking for in terms of applications, to make it easy to apply and to make it equitable by getting the applications out and advertising them. Next meeting will be February 28th, Tuesday morning.
It's a little crowded and we can almost not hear you back here.
Thank you. Yeah. Use my big boy voice here. Next rec committee meeting will be Tuesday, February 28th, right here, 8:30 in the morning. The public, of course, is welcome. Please come, listen, give some opinions during public comment. We'd love to hear from you. Historic Preservation Committee will meet Wednesday at 4 p.m. in these chambers as well. Also public meeting, and public is welcome and encouraged. The Communications Subcommittee that was assigned by this council 2 months ago met. We discussed the possibility of releasing city council agendas earlier, easily doing so on the Monday, the week before the council meeting, and perhaps even earlier, passing these to other local organizations as well for help disseminating the agenda. Discussed potentially doing another survey to see what has changed since 2019 survey results. Said that most citizens got their city news directly from the website or from Facebook, which is where the city tends to try to post a lot of its news. And we're trying to direct more people directly to the website where all the agendas are posted as early as possible. We often hear from people after the fact. After meetings, we get a lot of comments and emails, which is great. We would love to have more people, and this is really incredible to see all of you here this evening as well. So for those who are curious, how it can work is if you read the agenda, which is published the week before the meeting on the city website, in the Ellsworth American and through other various channels, and something speaks to you, you can come to these meetings as you've done, and you're welcome to speak during public comments, and specifically on certain agenda items as well, where the public are welcome to comment. You can also email any of the counselors up here, first initial of the first name followed by last name at ellsworthmaine.gov. We'll get back to you as soon as possible, and we'll answer questions about how to seek information from the city as well. The next meeting is, Counselor?
Yeah, the next meeting is February 22nd, here. Yeah.
Would you like to add anything?
I think you got the main points. Did you want me to add something?
Can't remember.
I think you got the main
Counselor
points. We're
O'Halloran,
thinking of lots of
I
ideas.
think you hit it all.
Okay.
Great job.
That's all I've got. Thank you.
Councilor Beal?
The Harbor Commission met the last Wednesday, or Thursday. And they really are talking about, it's exciting, but opening up the harbor and docks and walkways that we need. And I love thinking about May coming, especially in February. But they also are talking about capital improvements, and they're still defining the work that needs to be done for the cribs. They've put in a request for financing in the budget, but they would like, they're gonna define that dollar amount more before the budget is ready to be spoken about. And then the Finance Committee meets every Friday morning at 7:15. One of the items on the agenda is we invite people in to talk about projects, well, the staff to come in and talk about projects that may be coming out, and so we can have an idea about funding, make recommendations to the council. But the other thing that was really wonderful last Friday is Amy Bowles, the superintendent of the school department, Paul Marcosian, and Kelly McKenney from the school board came to talk with us about the school department and funding and what is coming up. And we're going to start having regular communications with the school department about once a month, if not more. And we'll be talking about the upcoming budgets, upcoming issues that they want, and even, you know, the possibility of the city and the school department sharing services to save funding. So it was a great meeting. I learned a lot. It's been quite a while since I've been involved in school finances, and I think it's with Amy and the school board, I think it's going to be a great communication. So.
Can I ask one quick question about, have we had any progress on streaming the Finance Committee meetings for
Not
those of us?
streaming because.
Or taping or whatever?
Taping, we haven't been taping, have we?
We haven't yet, no,
No.
because we've
I keep
talked
looking on
about
the
it multiple
website.
times, and we've never, you've never come up with a final decision whether you want it recorded,
Yeah.
just audio or video.
It would just be great for, like, I work at
To
that
listen to
point,
it,
and I would
yeah.
love to be able to listen to
Yeah,
it.
we can talk about it later, but I think it was the audio because the video is hard because no one's in here at 7:15 to start it up for us, so. But we can at least get that going. I
Okay,
apologize.
no, that's okay.
And
It's everything.
I'd just add one piece to the Finance Committee. One of the things we've asked the councilors to think about, next month, we'll be talking of getting a schedule for the budget meetings, the workshops. And one of the things that we discussed in the Finance Committee was the possibility of scheduling more frequent budget meetings so that we can get through the presentation from staff and have more time as a council to then have discussions about the entire budget as opposed to just doing it once a week. So it's something to think about. Obviously, it compresses the schedule and more time in terms of the week. So if you could just be thinking about that, and then next month it will be on the agenda to put a schedule together, and we can make that decision about how we want to proceed.
So, local road committee met January 30th, talk about roads and which ones are gonna get repaired and which ones aren't. We aren't to that point yet, but I would like to add 4 people to that committee to get approved. So, motion to approve Rob Shea, Mark Blanchett, Steve Beetham, and Rick Lyles to that committee.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? They are appointed. The last piece that I have for a report is on the Rec Commission. The members of the Rec Commission found that an early morning timeframe, or beginning of the morning, 8:30, I think it's 8:30, was best for that group. That's a time that I'm not able to make it work. So I've notified the Rec Commission that I'll come off of that committee because it doesn't make any sense for me to just have my name attached if I can't attend it. So I wanted to raise it to see if anybody here, Councilor Stein's going to participate, but if there was another member interested, that commission can have 2 representatives from the council.
What day do they meet?
Usually the third Tuesday at 8:30 in the morning. There are 2 counselor voting positions, or just?
There's one voting position, and then one other position that exists.
I'd be willing to sign up for that.
Thank you.
It's a good time.
I've got a lot to learn.
It always has.
All the fun
It's
stuff.
always been a good time.
Yeah.
It is. It's the fun
We
stuff
will
to
add
talk
you,
about.
Yeah, right.
make that official, and make that change. Thank you. Any other committees? All right. Item 7, citizens' comments. This portion of the agenda where citizens can come to the podium, say your name, and you have approximately 3 minutes to comment on anything you'd like. If it's on the agenda, you'll have a chance at that time to speak to the agenda item, so you don't have to take up the 3 minutes for that. So anybody that wishes to speak may go to the podium now.
Robert Hessler from Ellsworth. Do I have to give you my address, or is that appropriate, or what do we, do I give you my, do I say my address? Or
No, that's-
just Ellsworth, okay. I brought a slick presentation with me. I want to talk just for a couple of minutes about what I think is a really dangerous intersection for pedestrians in downtown Ellsworth. And that's the intersection of Main Street, Water Street, and State Street. I think the most dangerous crossing is, am I too far from that? Probably am. I think the most dangerous crossing is between Serendib and the Maya Center. There are a couple factors that come into that. The crosswalk is set back from the intersection a good bit, so you're not that visible. There's a lot of traffic, especially in the afternoon, that comes up Water Street. This is roughly north here. Comes up Water Street, is given when the light turns green, they're given a green arrow in the left lane, and the right lane has a green light. When that turn ends, they get a yellow arrow and then a green light. So it never says stop. If there's no traffic coming down State Street, and there's a long line of traffic coming up Water Street, I think that you might even get a situation where cars increase in speed when they are making the left-hand turn. That's exactly when the walk signal comes on to cross to Emmaus Center. As soon as that left-hand light, or left-hand light goes from yellow back to green, you're told to cross. In November, December, and January, when it's dusk, by the time you get the highest afternoon traffic, it's especially dangerous. For some people, it's more dangerous. If you're not tall, you're not going to be seen well. If you think that crosswalk signals should function properly, you're in danger. Because this one, it says to cross, and it might be the most dangerous time to cross that street. I personally used to cross from Water Street across a lot, and also the Serendip to Emmaus. I still do quite, at least a couple times a week. And it's always a challenge. I see tourists, guests, visitors really confused at that intersection at each one of the crosswalks. I've seen younger people that I have actually found the nearest place to park my car, and walk back to make sure that they would make it across that intersection successfully.
You have about 10 seconds.
Oh, 10 seconds? Tonight, I had my hands on the fender, or the hood of a pickup truck that didn't stop when I was crossing with the light. And that's it. I think it's really dangerous. I have a little picture. This is the cross button, not at this intersection, but at the intersection High Street, Oak Street, and it's yours. So High Street, Oak Street, and Main Street. And there are several feet of sea roses. Let's go to you first.
It doesn't
Several
matter.
feet of sea roses between the sidewalk and the button. And it just sort of sets the tone for how seriously the city takes pedestrian safety.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
That's right, Helen.
Before you leave, I'd like to get a picture of your visual aid. That's very nice. Before you leave, I'll get it.
Good evening, councilors. Mark Blanchard. First of all, this is very much an unfamiliar position, speaking from here of all the times I've talked in this room, so I'll try my best. I just wanted to stop by this evening to say thank you on behalf of Ellsworth residents to the Ellsworth Highway Department employees. From a hellish rainstorm 2 days before Christmas to this past cold snap that we recently had, not to mention a couple very difficult storms in between, we came out of them relatively unscathed due to the efforts of these employees. The roads were plowed, sidewalks were cleared, and the water line breaks caused by frost heaves were replaced all in timely fashion by them and the water department, allowing us to continue on with our daily lives and schedules because of their dedication. Dedication that came at a personal cost to them in the way of missed vacations and family time together, both at Christmas and on some of the holidays since. It also came at a cost of working, in many cases, in excess of 30 hours straight in below freezing temperatures. I know there were some cases that, at times, didn't allow for a full complement of staff, issues beyond anyone's control. But everyone else picked up the load and got the job done. Perhaps it may, in their opinion, be second nature, having to work long hours in less than ideal conditions. Just part of the job, they might say. But I want them to know their timely work is noticed and very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Seeing none, move on to presentation of awards. First one is for Edmund Murray. So, the City of Ellsworth proudly presents a certificate of service to Edmund Murray in recognition of your 30 years of service as a facility supervisor for the Ellsworth Public Library. Your devotion to duty and loyalty to the community have contributed to the improvement of the City of Ellsworth. 30 years is a remarkable career. Very much. And we are going to postpone a special promotion that's listed on the agenda until the March meeting. So we'll do that in March. Councilor Hanson, did you want to?
Yes, Councilor Hamilton and I both put this next agenda item on the agenda, which is the Arbor Day proclamation. In anticipation of it, Tabitha White is going to give us a brief information on
Yeah, just a
urban
little tree
forestry.
report.
Just a little tree report.
I have some handouts for you guys to further investigate there. Thank you guys for letting me speak tonight. My name is Tabitha White. I thought I'd let you guys know a little bit more about the girl who is always up here bugging you guys about trees. I was born and raised here in Ellsworth. I graduated from the University of Maine with my bachelor's in forestry. Moved to the city of Boston, where I became a planting coordinator there for 5 years, and after that moved to the city of New York, where I was a procurement forester for 3 years. I've been a certified arborist for 13 years, and when I moved home back home to Ellsworth, became the procurement manager and project manager for Atlantic Landscape Construction, and I am now currently working with the Garden Artisans in a similar role, and in the process of developing a specimen tree nursery here in Trenton, Maine. I joined the Ellsworth Green Plan in 2017 when I moved back to Maine, and I've since become the chair of trees in the land chapter of the Green Plan. I just want to thank the mayor for the proclamation. It's essential to our continued Tree City USA status, which we achieved for the first time last year, 2022. Since 2017, there's been significant progress that's been made in the Ellsworth's urban and community forest. A comprehensive street tree inventory of downtown Ellsworth is near completion, and the community has come together to fundraise, apply for grants, volunteer, and partner with the city on more than 20 tree plantings in the area between City Hall and High Street. And with the assistance of the Frenchman Bay Conservancy and Project Canopy, we have established a tree nursery capable of holding over 500 trees, which we want to see as Ellsworth street trees, park trees, and trees for natural spaces. To date, 80 trees have been planted by students and community members here in Ellsworth, and another 80 will be added this spring. And for the first time in 2022, like I said, we earned the distinction of becoming a Tree City USA, joining a group of 19 other Maine towns and cities. The current steps in our efforts include reapplying for the Tree City USA status, is why we need the proclamation, and completing the canopy coverage assessment, which will support our proposal for an urban and community forest management plan for the city of Ellsworth. So I'm kind of here to ask you for help, not that we were going to discuss it tonight, but it's the start of asking. We want to maintain Ellsworth's recognition as a Tree City USA and further advance its urban and community forestry program. But active support from the city is crucial. Our first steps towards achieving this goal is to fully implement the Arbor Commission as outlined in the 1991 Tree Ordinance, Chapter 43. You'll find that ordinance there on page 2. And to date, as far as I know, no one has been appointed to this committee. This tree ordinance was created in response to the destructive impact of the Dutch elm disease in Ellsworth, and it aims to efficiently address the issue by appointing qualified individuals to work in collaboration with volunteers in developing and executing an urban and community forestry management plan. This approach not only maximizes expert input, but also utilizes community resources, thus avoiding any financial burden on the city, which is really exciting. Secondly, we strongly recommend that the city apply for a $10,000 2023 Project Canopy planting and maintenance grant. This grant is a highly sought-after source of funding for many cities in Maine, as it allows for sustainable financing of urban and community forestry initiatives and helps maintain Tree City USA designation. In recent years, Green Ellsworth and the Frenchman Bay Conservancy has successfully obtained the grant, demonstrating its feasibility and its importance. To support the city's application, Green Ellsworth, the Ellsworth Garden Club, and the Frenchman Bay Conservancy are eager to offer assistance with writing the grant, securing volunteer labor, and providing matching contributions through funding the community tree nursery. We anticipate that the 2023 Project Canopy Grant will provide resources to plant a substantial number of 2 to 2.5 inch trees with an estimated total, and that's caliper, not height. That's pretty, so big, a lot bigger trees. With an estimated of about 10 to 12 trees with $10,000. Through our street tree inventory analysis, we have identified several ideal planting locations. However, obviously to finalize that list, we were going to seek input from Public Works Department and relative representatives from the state. Some of our 2023 goals are to plant trees on city streets, in our nursery, and other public green spaces. Ideally working when we can with the city crew, as we proved in November of 2021, to be very successful when we planted about 8 maple trees over on High Street together. We've also gotten in-kind tree donations secured from the Hancock County Soil and Water Conservation District, Bartlett Tree Experts, and the Garden Artisans. We also want to complete the street tree survey and mapping out the work for the remaining city streets and neighborhoods. We want to finalize an urban and community forestry management plan in consultation with city staff and a hopeful newly appointed Arbor Commission. And we want to recruit and train a team of tree stewards who can monitor city and nursery trees for pests and disease, watering needs, and tree and nursery maintenance. On this, I added some upcoming events that I hope you can all consider coming to, everyone here and who's watching, including tree pruning and tree planting, and my contact information if anyone wants to get a hold of me with any questions or concerns. And I also included a bunch of newspaper articles from 1991 and 1992's planting efforts, which are the courtesy of Jan Santerre of Project Canopy from the state. They are really interesting, and I hope you guys enjoy them. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
So I have a proclamation. I'll read it, and then I'll entertain a motion to accept it. Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, and whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, if this is approved by the council, we will recognize Friday, April 28th, 2023, as Arbor Day in the city of Ellsworth. So with that, I would entertain a motion. A second. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
The Lorax would be proud.
All right. Unfinished business, item 9. We've changed the order at the beginning of the meeting, so we will have discussion of possible action to allow carry cars to remove personal items from the property. Councilor O'Halloran.
Thank you. When the Crash property went out to sealed bid, after it was presented, I reached out to the Karst family and said, this circumstance is very unfortunate. Is there anything that we can do for you? And during the discussion, it was, well, it would be nice to get some of our personal items out of the house before the house was sold. And when I tried to sponsor this as an agenda item, City Hall said that that's not necessary, that they could just call City Hall and could make those arrangements. But we'd like all of this above board, and that's why I bring it to the council tonight, to allow the Karst family, either supervised or unsupervised, to remove their personal items from the property before possession changes hands from the city to whoever the new owner may be. And again, it could be supervised or unsupervised. The Karst family, when I reached out to them, accepted responsibility for this terrible position that everyone's in. But their personal property, pictures, etc., would be valuable to that family and would not have value to the new owner.
So, Manager Mosher, is there any concern in terms of that process?
None whatsoever. No. We just have to know when they want to come, and someone can go and unlock the
So it's something
residence.
that they can do?
Yep. Anytime. They just want to reach out to myself here at the city, and we'll make arrangements for them to be able to get into the house.
And what number would they call?
Yeah, I don't know my own number.
667-2563.
I invited them to come tonight, and Mr. Karst came along with his daughter Ashley, if there was any questions that the council wanted answered. But I'm hoping not to drag them through any more than we have, and when you're ready for a motion, I can make a motion.
I don't think this is anything we have to vote on. I mean, they don't need permission. That's something the city manager handles. I don't think the council needs to vote for something like that. It's not a
Well, it would be nice to.
responsibility of us.
It would be nice to let them see the council approve that, so there's no questions.
Yeah.
Councilor Beal?
So, I apologize, I don't know which person is Mr. Carr. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you had to come here for this, because it isn't anything that the city council would actually give permission or vote on or anything like that, but you have our, I mean, honestly, permission to go in and get your, we're not trying to prevent you from having anything that's personal or anything of value to you, you know, personally, absolutely would never, ever do that, so.
Any other comments? Councilor Allen, anything?
May I make a motion?
You're free to.
Okay. I would move to allow the Karst family to contact the city manager for personal item removal, whether supervised or unsupervised. And I'd like to get the council's blessing so that it's clear to this family.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, just so I'll second it.
So there's a second. So, discussion. I guess I understand what you're trying to get at, Councilor Howe, and I think the process, though, is it opens the door for this council, future councils, to end up voting on matters that really we shouldn't be voting on as a council. And that's my larger concern, is that we start taking over the functions of our city staff and stepping in where we really don't need to step into. I certainly appreciate the fact, I think it's a message to let them know that they can have their personal property, but I just don't think it's a voting issue for a council to take, and that's my concern, is it has bigger ramifications in terms of government stepping in and having to vote on every item that comes forward in the city. So for that reason, I would vote no on this, because I just don't think we should be voting on this type of issue, not because of the substance of it, just because I don't think that the council should be voting on these types of issues.
I think if I'm clear, they could have gotten their stuff a month ago or 2 months ago. They'd called, right? So, it's good.
Can I say something? So sorry.
Yeah.
You need to come to the
I was not made aware of this situation until the article came out. So I could not reach out to the city council a month, 2 months ago. So if I had known, I would have come forward and gotten those things, but I had not been made aware until very recently. And so I understand that proposes a dilemma for you, but I would still very much like to go in and get my family's things. However, that has to happen.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Thank you. I just want to let you know that I would have if I had known.
Any other discussion? Councilor Howell?
The other thing I would just add is, I don't think everyone is super comfortable calling City Hall. I think we here that are at City Hall understand it's acceptable to call, but I'm not sure everyone feels that way. Much like you see a lot of discussion happen on social media, but the place doesn't fill up like social media does. So I brought this forward simply to make it clear to this family. And I don't think, we think it's easy to call City Hall, but it may not be easy for everyone to call City Hall, especially in this situation where you have a very unfortunate tax lien foreclosure situation.
I think though, if a person, they're more comfortable calling a counselor or emailing a counselor, then the counselor's responsibility is to direct them in the place that they should be going to staff and the city manager. And helping them, even if it's coming to City Hall and making an introduction or sending an email or something like that. But it's our responsibility to make sure that the people that elected us are going to the correct spots and places and feeling comfortable enough to do that. And we can help with that, absolutely, so. I'm so sorry.
I have no problem calling the city manager at all, so none of you have to worry about that. Oh, thank you. Oh, okay, I had to think of thing. And so I just don't have any problem with it. There's something that happened, it's my fault, and I have to deal with it, and, but I have no problem with the city manager, I'm not, but now I'm in a better place.
Yep.
Okay?
We will,
Thank you.
we will accommodate you in any way we can.
Okay, thank you.
Would like to say, based on both of your comments, in no way, you should not feel at all like you're being put on the spot around this issue about getting into the house and getting your belongings. This discussion is really about more procedure and process related to the council and what the council should or shouldn't be voting on. It has nothing to do with you, and I just want to make sure that you walk away here knowing that.
That said, is there any way to table this, maybe a discussion for if something goes wrong and it's not possible in some legal action, maybe it comes back to council? On principle, I would abstain from the vote, but I would really hate to see that create not allow this to pass, and if it doesn't pass that motion, that would not allow the family to access. And I don't want to not allow the family to access, and I feel, and if we all abstain to vote, it won't pass, and if it doesn't pass, they won't be allowed access. I think the better.
Yes, they will.
Yes,
They
they'll
will.
still be able to get it.
It's not our issue.
It's not our responsibility to do this.
But we have a motion and a second, right?
Yeah, we're in discussion right now.
Okay.
We will vote on it. Any other comments? All right, seeing none. All those in favor? 1-4. All those against? Opposed? And so abstentions, I'll just remind the council that you can only abstain from a vote if there is a conflict of interest. I mean, you have to state that conflict. That's part of the charter, so.
Oh, I have no conflict, so then I'll just vote no.
Yeah, agreed.
Like John, I just didn't want to vote no, I just don't want to vote.
Just go get your stuff.
So motion fails, but we'll reiterate and stress that all you have to do is call the city manager, and you're gonna be able to get in and get your volumes. Thank you. All right, so continued discussion on 16 Fifth Street property at the request of the tax collector.
Hi, hello, I'm Sue McLean, tax collector, and before I get into this, I just want to say, if you try and call the city manager and you don't get him, please call me. It has never been an issue. You can call me anytime. It's not a problem. And I think I have spoken to you in the past anyway. Yeah, so I'm nice, I won't. So, at the last meeting, on January 9th, I was asked to go back and take a look at the tax acquired property ordinance, see what options were available to us after all the bids for the 16th Fifth Street sale were rejected because of a split vote. I feel like we did everything right by the book. So having said that, I just had to put that out there. I only found a couple of things that really tells us what the next step is. One was in Article 3 of the ordinance, Section 7, which says, should the city council reject all bids, the property may be offered again for public sale without notice to any prior owner or owners. And then the second thing was Article 3C, Section 2, that says, this one's a little more winded, any sale of tax-acquired property shall be through public sale. The finance director, under the directive of the city manager, shall oversee the exact terms and conditions of such sale and use his or her best judgment to seek the best and most expedient method of sale and return on the sale for the city. The city council will have the right to accept or reject any sale. That's all I have. I don't have anything else to offer. I don't have any other suggestions. At this point, I would just ask the council to advise what they would like to see done, and what would you like me to do next?
I think,
Council Lyons.
I kind of like option A, over the expedient way, and that's my theory, and offer it to a prior family, prior owner.
I don't think that was listed.
Just so it, the city's interest is to get the money that's owed for the back taxes and fees and everything else. So that's what I would be interested in seeing gets done.
But I don't think that's what's listed here.
Oh,
It's just.
can you read option A again?
Yep, it says, should the city reject all bids, the property may be offered again for public sale without notice to any prior owner or
Oh.
owners.
Okay.
I mean, I think, and it's just my interpretation, but I think it has to go back out for sale somehow. I just need to know what you want me to do.
So we looked at, through the finance committee, we had some conversations, so I had Sue reach out, and we've got options on the way we do it. We can put it out to sealed bid again, which is a possibility. We can go through a realtor, list it with a realtor to try to sell the property through a realtor, or our third option is an auction of the property, which you should have received today, an email estimate on what that would cost. I have some printed copies here if somebody was unable to see their email. So those are the three potential options of ways we could potentially explore the sale of the property.
Councilor O'Halloran.
I have a little concern with the whole thing, and it starts with this. I voted against putting it out to sealed bid. I was hoping that the tax collector and the family could somehow connect. I know there was a lot of talk about were they notified properly, were they not notified properly because of COVID or what have you. But it was voted, I believe, 5-2 to go out to sealed bid. And it goes to sealed bid. And they were, as I recall, there were 7 bidders that did due diligence in researching the property, assigning a value to the property, bringing 10% of their bid to City Hall. There's a lot of due diligence there. And then there wasn't enough support to take the high bid. So in this case, we're sitting here with, I realize we have a legal right that we can reject all bids, but I feel like we have 2 wrongs here. We have the family that we have wronged, and now we have the high bidder that we have wronged. So I don't know where to go. I just would like to make the record clear that I think we have 2 problems here. One, I'm not sure we did the right thing with the family, and 2, you have 7 bidders that did due diligence, and their time is wasted.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, let me, in a second, I just want to comment. I just, your words are your words. I think, I want to go on record both with the family, and I think the family knows this better than everyone else, is that the city has a very clear process which is mandated by law, which we follow, which is a long process. We're talking, I think it's 5 years.
Yeah.
Before the city ever steps in to foreclose on a property.
It's not 5 years.
No.
Not for foreclosure. It's about like two and a half.
2.5
yeah.
years, and the whole process is
Right.
About 5 years.
Right.
It's extensive, and there's a lot of back and forth, and it's mandated. There's legalities around it, and there's notification. And so it's not the city trying to do something to somebody, to a property owner. It's not city staff who are trying to go after people.
Exactly.
It is a process that we follow because there are legal aspects to it. And it's never easy. I've had to sit through multiple situations that we've foreclosed on properties. Some are easier, some are harder. It's always done with the best intention. The reason for the fact that the council can reject any and all bids is exactly for situations like this. And the reason we ended up, I believe, I was on the side of voting against the higher bid for reasons that I felt were important. And we just disagreed as a council, which ended up with no action, which brings us to the discussion tonight. I think that's a good process, when you have this lengthy process, when you have debate and discussions, and you try to make the right decision. So I just want to go on record to characterize the city staff, the city, as doing wrong to other people. It's just not the case. It's really intended to try to do our best to support people, and I think this city goes out of their way because of the law, but also because of the compassion to try to work with families, to try to retain those properties, to keep people in properties. We've, as a city, have foreclosed on properties and allowed people to remain in those homes for as long as they needed to. So I think I want the whole community to understand the context of this situation and not look at it as though they're somehow people, individuals, city council is doing something cruel and mean-spirited.
Right. And I just wanted to say that it's not, basically, it's just on what you're saying, but it wasn't up to me to say, you can just have the house back. Pay the taxes and have the house back. Let's work something out. It wasn't up to me, but you just kind of made it sound like you thought it was. I followed the law, the letter of the law. I followed the ordinance. I followed the Maine State liens book. I was diligent on all of it, and everything was done as it should have been. And I did come to the council at one point and asked if we could accept payment and deed it back to him. And was told that it has to go out to bid per ordinance, which is true. So we did, as tax collector, I did everything I could, and I just want to make that known.
Councilor Beal.
I just wanted to add too, that the reason we have ordinances, they're local laws, and they're made for rules to also protect the people. Because if we go against these rules and these laws, number one, they can go to court and be held up in court. But it prevents councils from having too much power and to be making decisions on a whim that could be for or against the people that they represent. So that's why we do this. It's not, just more municipal or, legal red tape. It's to protect everybody. So you can't just say, well, we're gonna forget the ordinance this time and we're just gonna give the property back, because what about the next person that you don't wanna give the property back to? You now know you don't have anything for standing on for your decisions. And so that's why we do this. It's not to be mean, it's not to be anything. And it is it's a shame that it got to this point. Usually, if it hadn't been for COVID, I'm sure that the city would have been right on it. There's a schedule for it to make sure that this does happen and that all the notifications and things are taken care of, and that 5 years later, you're not finding out that you're, losing your property. You would, everything goes in a pretty smooth, normally, transition. But COVID, has put, some delays and things, and I'm sorry you feel like you're being attacked, because you're absolutely not, because you're doing things.
No, I just wanted it clear
Yeah.
that I did everything I was supposed to do, and then some.
But if I may, just to finish, if we can, this is dragged out for so long, and I'm sure it's embarrassing to the family, and it's it's not really the way that we do things. It does need to go to public. I don't think, if we put it out to bid, I think we've lost the standing for that, and people are just, not going to be bidding on the property. But we could, the auction company, or just having a real estate agent, although I think an auction company is more of a public sale, I think that would be a really good option. And then, the Cars family can be at the auction and, try and bid on it. And we'll have someone professional taking over that. And then I think it's done more in a fair way to the family.
Councilor O'Halloran.
I'd just like to clarify that I'm sorry you feel personally attacked, because that's not my intent. My intent is compassion for the family, for the situation. I think we all had COVID challenges, and I just think that there may have been some room for some compassion and some discussions here. Aside from that, I don't, to echo Michelle, I don't see a path forward here except a public sale. I feel bad that we've wasted all of the bidders' time and money, and I feel horrible for that, and we probably alienated future people interested in properties. But perhaps the public sale is the right way, and I would like to find a way to return the equity to the family after the sale. Now, I'm told that can't be done.
That's correct.
But
As of right now, that cannot.
okay. Could you elaborate on that? Why?
Well, I don't have the law right in front of me,
Okay.
but that is not how the law or the ordinance is written. It does not allow for that.
Okay. Can we get a legal opinion on that? I mean, we're talking about taking someone's livelihood here. And the cities do their taxes, but if there's equity, can we at least get the city's attorney's opinion on that?
Okay.
Council,
guess.
well, before we do that, let's start with Council Lyons.
Well, if we were gonna do that, then why wouldn't we just get the money that's owed, sell it back to the people, and then they can sell it and take the equity, and we don't even have to go through that process?
Because you have an ordinance.
Right.
Council Beal.
So I'm sorry, I feel like I'm lecturing tonight, and I really apologize. But the reason that we don't do that, again, is because you're doing things on a whim. How much of it would you give back? All of it? Some of it? What if a person had dilapidated property and the city of Ellsworth has to pay to take care of it? You can't make decisions on one person. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. This city spends a lot of money taking care of foreclosed property that people just abandon, and then we have to take care of it, and that costs money. And so you can't just say, I'd like to give them their money back and keep this person's money. Again, you need consistency for the protection of everybody.
Councilor O'Hara.
I'm not trying to single this family out. I'm saying that, can we look into that as a policy? I feel horrible in this particular case. It appears that there's a $19,000 bill and a $111,000 value. And boy, that's awfully hard to rob that family of it. And I'm not saying that family, I'm saying others as well. That's why I like to dive a little bit deeper into that process. And I saw a question in the audience.
Can I make it? This whole thing is due to me. I'm the one that did this. I'm the one that did not pay the taxes and all that. I really don't care if, I appreciate Steve, and I understand and I appreciate it a lot, you know, what you're doing. But as far as me, you know, I just want to get myself and rent the house, you know. So, I'm just, if you guys worried about me, don't worry about me. All right, don't worry about me.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hot French, I can't go.
Now I know.
Well, that makes it easier.
Yeah.
And so just in terms, I want to get back to the Councilor O'Halloran, you had suggested an attorney opinion. For me, I think if that is happening, that needs to be a motion. We should not be just on a whim asking the city to keep going to attorneys to challenge the decision-making of city staff. That's why we have city staff. You're telling us what the ordinance and law says. I have no reason to doubt that. And so I don't think I think it needs to be a motion from this council before you go to the attorney on this issue. With that, I will make a motion to request that we put this property out for sale through the auction company and do that public sale in that manner.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Question, the council, it seems like from Article 3, Section 2, will have to then approve that sale once it goes through?
Yes.
Do we want to consider in this any sort of contingency? I mean, I don't want to see a repeat of the bidding process that I think, at least the high bidder who emailed us lost faith in the product, in the process, and wouldn't bid again because that we sort of walked back that opinion. I know we can't pre-approve anything, but, you know, is there any way we can give the would-be bidders on the auction some faith that we will accept that high bid?
Can we pre-approve it? Can the motion say, and move to accept the highest bid through the auction process?
That may be part of the packet where we set I can't quite remember, but where you set those kinds of issues. But I can call. I can call them and ask them about that.
I believe an auction is different process than the sealed bid process. In
Yes.
terms of, at the time, everybody who is bidding on it knows that the process is, that's going to the highest bidder. And then what we're doing is just codifying that through our vote.
So the assumption is that we would
We would
accept.
set a minimum bid, and then that's where the bidding would start for the auction. And then when the auction is concluded, it would be sale to the highest bidder through that process.
Other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have no consent agenda items this evening, so we're into new business. And item 10, public hearing and action on the issuance of business licenses. Madam Clerk,
Thank you very much.
all licenses are in order? No issues? So I will apologize because there's a large number, which means you'll be hearing me bang, 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 bang.
We can go through these quickly.
Yes, we can go through them quickly, but, all right. Ready? 3 minutes.
None of them are new, and none of them have people, I mean, Nick's here, but he's not here, probably here for that.
Sit down, Nick. All right. Atlantic Coast Inn, 200 High Street for renewal of a city lodging house license. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. The public hearing is open. Anybody like to speak on any of those issues? When I open the public hearing for any of this, you may speak if you'd like. And I will not be saying that anymore. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. The public hearing is closed. Council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. ETC LLC, DBA Diane's 35 Eastwood Lane for renewal of a city class C and state liquor licenses. Public hearing, open public hearing. Public hearing is open. Any public comments? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Unanimous. Colonial Inn LLC, 321 High Street for renewal of a city lodging house license. This is a public hearing. Open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. Any public comments? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. LGovs LLC, DBA Governor's Restaurant, 253 High Street for renewal of a city Class C license, victular and liquor, and renewal of a state restaurant Class 3 and 4 malt and vinous liquor license. This is a public hearing. Open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. Any public comments? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed.
Move approval?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Siam Sky LLC, DBA Siam Sky 2, 78 Down East Highway for renewal of a city Class C license liquor and victular and renewal of a state Class 3 and 4 restaurant malt and vinous liquor license. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. No public comments. I'll close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Sanjeeva Abeyasakara, DBA Serendib, 2 State Street for renewal of a city Class C license, victual and liquor, and renewal of a state restaurant Class 3 and 4 malt and vinous liquor license. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. No comments. We'll close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? I'm losing my place.
Just say that name again.
Yeah,
for
you
fun.
actually did very
I
well
can.
on that one.
And I will apologize, Sanjeeva Abeyasakara.
Good job.
Better than I could do.
GC Pizza Hut LLC, DBA Pizza Hut, 211 High Street for renewal of a city Class C victular and liquor license and renewal of a state restaurant Class 4 malt liquor license. This is a public hearing. Public hearing is open. Seeing no comments, public hearing is closed.
Move to approve.
Motion?
Second.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Here you go, Nick. The Grand, 165 Main Street for renewal of a city Class B licensed victular liquor and amusement and renewal of a state other auditorium theater Class 3 and 4 malt and vinous liquor license. Is the public hearing open? The public hearing? Public hearing is open. Any comments? Janet, do you want to?
I'm here to wrestle anybody that gets, no, I'll make a quick statement.
Oh.
See, Janet, you waited too long, and look what happens.
There's a microphone. It's all over. You'd never leave it. Nick Turner with the Grand. I just wanted to state, ever since we got the liquor license years ago and it was approved by the city council, we haven't had one incident that would make it not worth what we did. It's been a wonderful, wonderful thing, and not one incident of misbehavior in any sort. And we serve only the finest beers and wines at every performance. Thank you.
Public hearing is closed.
Move to approve.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Bye, Nick.
See ya.
Finelli's of Maine LLC, DBA Finelli's, 12 Down East Highway for renewal of a City Class C victular and liquor license and renewal of a state restaurant Class 3 and 4 license. This is public hearing. Open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. Seeing no comments, public hearing is closed.
Move to approve.
Motion?
Second.
Second.
Second, discussion. All those in favor? Unanimous. Casa Jalisco, 205 High Street for renewal of a City Class C license and renewal of a state restaurant Class 1, 2, 3, 4 liquor licenses. Public hearing, open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. Seeing no comments, public hearing is closed.
Move to approve.
We have a motion.
Jalisco.
Yes. Thank you. Much better, you want to say it?
Second?
Discussion. I got all the way to the end.
Maximum efficiency.
All those in favor? Unanimous.
Very good.
Item 11, Council Order Number 021300, request of the Harbor Commission to award a food vendor contract for the Harbor Park.
Hi, Lisa Seckledge, Public Works Director. You can stick with the same thing and just done.
Yeah.
Nope, in all seriousness, I'm here representing the Harbor Commission tonight. On Friday, January 13th, the city of Ellsworth held its bid opening for proposals to serve as the city's food concession vendor at the Harbor Park. One RFP was received from a new vendor, LaForge Catering and Concessions. The Harbor Commission then met on January 19th to discuss the proposals received and the recommendation to City Council, since this one proposal was received, was to recommend proceeding with this vendor. The commission is offering a one-year contract with 2 potential one-year term extensions with the rental fee to be negotiated on a yearly term. And that's the recommendation from the Harbor Commission at this point.
The rent, the $600 per month, is just for the months. For which months?
It's from May 15th to October 15th, so 6 months. And that is a bid put in by the vendor, so they told us what they would pay to have that spot. That's not something that we, it's not a number the commission came up with.
How much has it been in years past?
I only know the previous vendor, which was $400 a month. I don't know what it was prior to that.
That's pretty consistent of what it's been in the past as well.
Move to approve a one-season contract for a commercial lease agreement with LaForge Catering and Concessions for a vending concession stand at the Ellsworth Harbor at a price of $600 per month, and authorize the city manager to sign the lease agreement.
Second.
Have a motion, second, discussion. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you much.
Item 12, Council Order Number 021302, request of the Water Superintendent to accept bids for a new Water Department truck.
You skipped one.
No,
Sorry, the
It's an
printed
old-
copies have the old.
it's an old agenda.
Yeah.
Good evening, Reggie Winslow, Water Department Superintendent. So the Water Department is requesting a new truck. Originally in the bid process, we did ask for a van. Those are no longer being built. So we sent out for a truck, sent out 6 bids, received 1 back. This is for a 1500 four-wheel drive, regular cab pickup, 8-foot bed. On the memo, I did make an error with the price. It says 40,450, it's supposed to be 40,950. We are trading in a 2-wheel drive, half-ton Chevy Silverado. Varney's is giving us $2,500 for that. So that is the truck it is replacing.
Councilman?
Do we know why the other bids weren't submitted to us?
I do not. I talked to all of them, well, 4 of them by phone also, and just never came in.
Councilor O'Halloran?
What's the year of the truck you're replacing in the
It
miles?
is 2015. It is just a little over 100,000.
What condition is it in?
It's in fair condition. It does need a little bit of work body-wise. It's great. But the main thing is it is 2-wheel drive, and it's not real good in the snow and the mud. Clearwater Way is typically a mess.
I wasn't thinking about that way, but $2,500 doesn't seem like very good trading value for a pickup truck.
Yeah, that I have no idea. I have not shopped for them.
Councilman?
Do we still use that bidding, like the main bid? Well, Lisa might know. The what? Surplus, yeah, main surplus. For quite a while.
Gov Deals, we have not used it in the last couple of years for anything. We found that in the instance of like these pickup truck kind of things, it's not super beneficial.
So it's
For
better
the
for the
bigger
larger
equipment
trucks.
type items, yeah, it's worth it, but for the pickup truck, it's not.
I asked because my brother's looking for a 2-wheel drive pickup, regular cab. And he's been all over the state.
So one of the other things Reggie and I discussed, and we didn't bring it up to muddy the waters, but since we're in them, is that if we don't want to trade it in, because $2,500 is not a lot of money, it is something that the highway department would gladly accept as a, like a parts truck type thing. So there may be some value to just keep it ourselves and run it till it dies.
Councilman?
And we could also put it out for sale,
Or
like,
we
in a
could-
local bidding process
Right, or we
as
could put it
well.
out for, like in the newspaper and such for a local bid type scenario. Yep.
I've actually had several people ask me about that process.
So, yep, those are 3 potential options for that part.
Councilor O'Halloran?
One further question, and I'm stumbling with this $2,500 trade-in business, but if in fact we do keep the trade, okay, and you repurpose it for the highway department or some other place, are we looking at a $5,000 bill to repurpose it?
I don't believe so. Tires really is the main thing.
The tires it needs?
It does definitely need tires.
Okay. So that's,
And a radiator, it does have a small radiator leak, but it's kind of intermittent. This radiator has the plastic sides. I don't know if you know anything about those. So metal radiator, plastic sides. It weeps out through.
it's got 100,000 miles.
Yep.
Full-size body?
Yep.
Thank you.
Is that part of this motion? Does this motion include what we do with the
So,
old truck?
That was another error that got brought up to me tonight, that I did not include the trade-in value or trading in that other truck in this motion. So I would invite you to be creative.
Yeah, so this amount of money is if we decided to keep the other truck,
Will go up.
this is how much this costs, or no, it's
43,
43,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
okay,
Yeah, I'm looking,
okay.
sorry. Wasn't ready.
43,450.
So it'd be,
Yeah.
42,950 without the trade-in.
43, 450.
43.
Okay, yeah, 43. Let's go with that one.
So, we just make a motion to approve it without the trade-in, just to purchase the vehicle with no trade-in.
Is that a motion?
Yes, a motion.
Second.
Motion is second. But we probably, we needed that motion, actually. We do need the sale price.
43.
Here, so, did you just read that whole thing with, then put this 43, 450 in there?
Move to approve the request to award Vanny Buick GMC of Bangor to be paid from the Water Department Capital Improvement Account for $43,450 for a two-wheel drive pickup.
No, four-wheel drive.
Four-wheel drive pickup.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion. Councilor O'Hara.
Is this truck available now, or is this one of these deals what we're ordering for 7
No,
months?
we will have to order the truck. It'll take 12 to 16
16
weeks.
weeks was in the bid.
So highway can't have it for another 12 to 16 weeks.
So it's gonna have to get fixed anyway, so, or it's tires and stuff too.
Will the council need to approve a transfer of the old truck to Public Works Department, or is that something called?
I believe that's just, Tony does that.
Awesome.
Just straighten me out on one thing. If it's good for the highway department, why is it not good for the water department?
So my take, it's a two-wheel drive truck. We go out in the wintertime. Highway is typically in their dump trucks or other trucks plowing. But also in the spring and fall, Clearwater Way gets very muddy. And that truck does not do well going out through there. If it were to stick to just pavement, I would assume that would be okay, but Lisa's gonna clarify.
Yeah.
I'm just, sorry. I'm just gonna add, the usefulness of it is also different. So in his scenario, the water department scenario, it's a daily vehicle. Like he's talking about going out to the treatment plant, water leaks, reading meters, it's a daily driver. In the highway department, once it moved out there, it would be more of a parts truck in the sense that if our mechanic needed to run to Caldwell Diesel to get a part, or Napa to get a part, or something, it's going to be a in-town, errand running, not used all day, every day type scenario. And it would only be if the rest of the pickups are being used by the department. So it's a daily driver versus everything else is gone, we have something to run and get parts.
Thank you.
And since we're not voting on this particular tonight, I would ask that maybe the staff come back to make a recommendation about whether or not it's more value to the city to sell versus just to keep it as a parts truck. So, and then maybe next meeting we can hear what your recommendation is and take action on that.
Okay.
Further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. Item 13, Council Order Number 021303, request of the Public Works Director to award the Christian Ridge Reconstruction Project.
Okay, hi guys, I'm back again.
And you are?
This one's a bigger ask, I won't lie. So please see attached letter and bid tabs from Haley Ward in addition to this memo. So on Thursday, February 7th, a bid opening was held for the reconstruction of Christian Ridge Road between Route 1, Bucksport Road, and Grant Street. The RFP was posted to the city's website, Facebook, the Ellsworth American, and the Bangor Daily News, as well as we notified local vendors and some companies out of Bangor that the bid or the RFP was out. 2 bids were received, with the apparent low bidder being RF Jordan and Sons for $1,531,385. This project in the partnership with the Maine DOT. We applied for what is called an MPI grant, which is a Municipal Partnership Initiative. It's the way the DOT is handling what they call their priority 3 and 4 roads, which are TOT roads that are not your major thoroughfares. What they found is with their limited funding, they basically split the cost 50-50 with the city up to a certain amount. So we have $475,000 that we are getting from the Maine DOT for the project.
I'm sorry, can you just say that number one more time?
475,000. So I'm asking that the remainder of the project cost be funded from the local roads account. There was some discussion about the local roads account previously in fiscal year 2022. I put away $475,000 for the project, as well as in budget fiscal year 21, I put $85,000 away for the engineering. Or, budgeted that into those previous years. But there still is a potential shortfall with this being more expensive than we originally intended. I do believe, after reviewing the history to the best of my abilities of the local roads fund, going back to fiscal year 20 and moving forward, I believe there is sufficient funds to cover the additional cost. It will, what I would call, deplete any additional money that we have left over that hasn't been encumbered thus far, but I think it's there.
It has to be done. What was the other bid?
The other bid was from Northeast Paving or Eurovia for $1.7 million.
Yeah. I couldn't remember off the top of my head.
Councilor O'Halloran.
There was some talk in the Finance Committee about the cost of management of this job going forward once it's awarded.
On the cost for the engineering oversight?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, so what are we looking at there? Do you have any feel for
So
that?
there's different scenarios. Haley Ward, who did the engineering, when we did the RFP for engineering services, it included both the design and the construction inspection part. So we would like to continue to use them to do the construction inspection part, and they have a scale essentially of options, and we can decide how much inspection we want. Based on that, we would set up a budget. It ranges anywhere from $50,000 to $127,000, depending on the time length of the project and how often we want the inspector there. And it would be, at a time and expense type billing rate.
And that will come back to the council.
Yeah, that would be its own separate thing.
Does the DOT have any prerequisites for giving 50% of the funding that we need to inspect a certain amount, or?
Their maximum is $500,000. So, when you do an MPI application, you put in what you estimate the project cost is going to be. Well, we estimated this project cost back in 2020 to be just about $1 million, or $975,000, whatever it was. So they gave us $475,000, and I put away $475,000. Sorry, $950,000. Since then, the price of everything has skyrocketed, and we are now 3 years later at a point where the cost has gone up. And DOT, once you sign that once that MPI agreement is signed and been reviewed by the DOT, there's no, hey, it costs 1.5, can we have more? That being said, there was discussion that Glenn and I are gonna meet with the commissioner to see if there is anything else they could do for us, but there's no guarantee in that.
It has to get done.
Councilor Beal?
It does have to get done.
Yeah.
That road's horrible. But I'm glad that you're gonna talk with the commissioner, because that road was passed over to us terribly when we became an urban compact. And there was discussion about them helping more. So, and I know it's been a long time, but I do think that a discussion would be the correct thing to do. But my other more worry is, I worry about taking something out of a fund that we're not positive how much money is in it, because we don't have our audit back. And I'm also not comfortable encumbering money from that account for 2024, when we haven't even started beginning the budget yet. I mean, you're gonna be holding the hands of the council when they're looking at their budget and their capital improvements and what they're looking at, because we've already encumbered the funds. So I do agree that it needs to be done, so I would like, if we make a motion, or I can make a motion, that we would fund it for the local roads committee, under the local roads capital improvement plan, but with the caveat that once we receive the, that's so you can get the project moving, but once we receive the audit, that we revisit the funding of this road and find, in case there's a more appropriate place to fund it, or if there's a lack of funding for it.
Second.
That was a very long motion, I'm sorry, Tony.
So we have a motion and a second discussion. Councilor O'Connell?
Could you repeat that?
I'm not sure, she's recording it. So my motion is to approve the project, funding it from local roads, but with the caveat that once the audit is complete and we understand the funding of our fund balance and of our capital improvement plans, that we revisit it to see if there's a more appropriate way of funding this program, well, I mean, this construction project, or in case there's also a shortfall.
Councilman?
Would you recommend a friendly amendment to say bid, award the bid to Irv Jordan?
Oh, absolutely.
At an amount of $1,531,385?
I would.
Okay.
Because we needed it to be a little bit longer.
You're welcome, Tony.
So we have a motion and a second. So with an amendment, further discussion?
In the revisiting, after the audit, looking at the roads fund, seeing how depleted it is, can we consider, would it be appropriate to consider use of ARPA funding for this project?
Because that's one of the things too that we were talking about, we need to look at ARPA funding and what we're going to do with it, and so absolutely, I mean, I think it could be a bunch of different ways. If is ARPA funding, yeah.
Yeah. We'd want to do more, if we were considering ARPA, we would want to do some more exploring as to the exact usage, because initially, road projects were not an acceptable ARPA expense. In the final draft of the rules, they did make some changes, so we just want to, if we were going to explore that, we just want to confirm that.
The other thing I wanted to bring up, and it adds a little more confusion, but it may be helpful, is we did also get the $2.2 million from the DEP for sewer and storm drain project. So there is also, in where that has drainage involved, there could also be some potential funding out of there that we might be able to piece together with some of the other things.
That'd be great.
So there is a lot of potential things in play with potential funding options.
Great, great.
Further discussion? Councilor
I'm
O'Connell?
a little confused about this. I'm for the project, but I'm not for dipping into ARPA. So in your motion, will whatever this review of the accounts, will that come before the council?
Oh, absolutely,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
it has to be
Okay.
reviewed by us, yeah, we make
Okay.
the decision.
I think in short, what you've put forward is that we're gonna, if the motion passes, we're funding it under what our understanding is, that funding that exists in the budget. But we're asking city staff to come back to us once the audit is in, so that we can review this to be certain that there are sufficient funds and/or there aren't other options that we could then utilize for it.
Correct.
So this gets the project going, but it also gives us the discretion to use alternate funding should we need to or want to.
Correct. Much more articulate, thank you.
All right, all in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you all.
Item 14, presentation, discussion, public comment, and potential action on adopting a community resilience partnership resolution.
Good evening, councilors. I'm Jana Richards, the Economic Development Director, here supported by Matthew Williams, our city planner, and Lisa's also in support of this, as well as the city manager, and quite frankly, a lot of staff, because it is a partnership, but comes with it is a lot of opportunities for additional funding that could be channeled into the city, where we could do projects that are across all disciplines, across the board, from water and sewer to drainage, which would affect local roads, to energy efficiency, which would hopefully reduce energy costs to all taxpayers. And so I'll stop there and go into a presentation, but I just wanted to inform you why we're all have been working on this. This was a request that was brought before this council in September. So those of you who were on the council then probably remember. At that point, we asked the council to consider joining and participating in the state's Community Resilience Partnership. We are here again this evening with the same request. This evening we have additional information that should hopefully satisfy some of the concerns that were brought up during the September meeting. We've prepared a memo that went through the concerns as we heard them from the council. One being, what are the obligations of the partnership once the city is part of the partnership? The other was, because there is a public and staff engagement process in becoming part of the partnership, the concern was, did the public and the staff engage enough in this process to get a full understanding of what the priority projects would be for the city to work on once we are part of the partnership and once we are able to apply for the opportunity for more funding. Finally, in the memo, there is a summary of what the benefits are for this partnership. I think this was brought to your attention during the September meeting, but just to reiterate, being part of the Community Resilience Partnership gives us the opportunity to apply for a no-match $50,000 grant to implement a community action or multiple actions that are a priority or priorities of the city. During our public engagement process and during the staff engagement process, there were five priority areas that were brought forth that the people that did engage within our survey and the workshop that we held, as well as city staff who has been working on a lot of these projects for years and years. The number one priority that came to the table was conduct a vulnerability assessment for critical community infrastructure. So that could be stormwater, that could be wastewater, that could be our water system. Could be all of them, it could be dams, all of our critical infrastructure as we identify it. Adopt a low impact design standard for stormwater management. Create or update a watershed plan to identify flooding and water quality priorities and adaptation options. Implement strategies that increase public transit ridership and alternative transportation modes, and identify and track a simplified set of emission indicators for community emission reduction. So those are the five priority areas that this community identified when doing the public engagement process. And we would have the opportunity, if we were part of the partnership, to apply again for a no-match 50,000 grant to work on some of those projects in the next year. Being part of the partnership also gives us the opportunity to work with a regional coordinator. Our regional coordinator is part of the Sunrise Council of Governments in Washington County. That person would assist us in researching grant opportunities and in completing and submitting grant applications. This is a huge asset to us as a city, since there are so many grant opportunities out there currently. We don't have the staff to be able to jump on all of them all the time. We have to prioritize out of the ones that will give us the biggest bang for the buck. Or if there's a grant that's out there based on a project that we know that we need to go after, we will go after it. But this would really help us package a lot of the projects that we need to do for the city, as well as prioritize and help us be more knowledgeable. I don't know if you've seen the Maine Jobs and Recovery Act, but within there's over 50 different grant opportunities available at any time at this point. And that's trying to set up programs and delegate funding that came to this state through ARPA funding. So this is the way the state has, you have to apply for it and you have to make a pitch for it, but they're really trying to delegate the money to the local governments in that fashion. And lastly, a very big benefit for us would be the opportunity to be reviewed more favorably on other significant state granting funding applications. So yes, we would have an opportunity to apply for $50,000, but we would also have the opportunity, and hopefully through the help of this regional coordinator, to apply for grant funds in excess amounts from $500,000 all the way up to almost $5 million. And I put some examples in the memo. The Maine DOT Infrastructure Adaptation Fund just released their 2022 funding. Those projects ranged anywhere from $50,000 to $4.15 million. I explained some of the examples of projects being funded through that program. One is the design and construction to protect the Booth Bay Harbor Sewer District's wastewater treatment facility. Another is to construct activities to address the most problematic of the city of Bath's drainage areas by upgrading and upsizing of equipment. And the last one, increasing the capacity of the stormwater system in the town of Winslow. So we would be able to apply for that same pool of funding that these other communities have already been awarded for big sizable capital improvement projects, and have the benefit of being reviewed more favorably for those grant funds. So we will take questions, but our ultimate request is to move to adopt a resolution of the Ellsworth City Council regarding participation in the state's Community Resiliency Partnership.
Councilor Hanson.
Thank you for bringing that back. It was clearly an incredible amount of work. I was strongly in favor of moving forward with this in September, and I remain strongly in favor. I didn't remember the part where being part of the resiliency program also gives us this grant writing, grant finding helper person, which I really think we have a lot of things we're trying to fix in this city and trying not to burden taxpayers. So all the help that we can get, both financially and finding grants and writing grants, is excellent. So thank you so much.
It just seems like a great tie-in to the comprehensive plan as we get that underway as well. I mean, sure, if we get $50,000 and that's all we get, one grant, even if we just get one, it's maybe not going to last all that long, worst case scenario, but it allows us to talk about and decide and engage with the community about what are our priorities in the city, what infrastructure does need improvement, to codify those and to really have those for when we engage with grants. I was just in Serendib talking with Sanjeev, whose liquor license we just approved for another year, as his basement kitchen was flooding with the last big storm. And he asked me, "Hey, you're on council, what's the plan, what are we doing?" And I was like, I don't think there's really a floodwater mitigation plan. I'm not sure we've discussed it. I certainly don't know much about it. So to be able to go to to people whose businesses downtown are flooding now increasingly with every storm, and say, we've got a plan, and then hopefully we have funding for it as well. It's pretty incredible. That wasn't a question, sorry. I was just talking out loud.
Comment, that's fine.
Can I make, oh, did you?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna, are we ready for a motion? Move to adopt a resolution of the Ellsworth City Council regarding participation in the state's Community Resilience Partnership.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Item 15, Council Order Number 021304, request of the Water Superintendent to have the high school water tank repaired.
Good evening again, Reggie Winslow, Water Superintendent. So our State Street storage tank, the one up behind the high school, has 2 leaks in it. These leaks need to be repaired from the inside. I'm requesting that the statewide aqua store come in and do these repairs. They are kind of proprietary to this tank. It belongs to them. This will include the 2 leak repairs. It will also include repairing the glass lining on the inside of the tank. So hopefully this doesn't continue again or happen again. Back during 2019, I believe, we did a tank rehabilitation project, and it was noted then that this tank was in need of glass lining repairs, and it's finally come to fruition now. So I'm requesting that statewide aqua store come in for $56,800 to repair and reline this tank.
We're just looking at the photos
It's
of
incredible.
the water shooting out of the tank,
So
the
this
ice,
is
the ice freezing down the tank.
The 3rd/4th, they came in back in 2017 and repaired a leak, and then also repaired another potential leak while they were here. And that one actually sprung out and put water onto the gate, so we spent a couple of days chipping ice so we could even just get inside the fence to be able to get to the tank.
Councilor O'Halloran.
Is this an emergency repair? Has this gone out to bid? Is there one company that can only do it?
It has not gone out to bid. Again, this is a proprietary thing. This tank was built by the statewide aqua store. And they really are the best ones to come in and do this work. And right now, we are operating about 10 to 15 feet lower than what we should be. This has lowered pressures out on the further ends of East Main Street, and we've got a few complaints about that already.
So to clarify, is this an emergency repair, or is it time to look for pricing?
Currently, so I would consider it an emergency. We're getting into summer, and as a matter of fact, statewide aqua store can't be here until at least May. The summer months get here, we're gonna be using a lot more water, and I'm afraid we're not gonna have enough.
If I may, I'm putting in. So we need this potential approval tonight so that, statewide, so we can get on statewide aqua store's agenda. So they're booking out 6 months to a year like a lot of other vendors, and construction companies, and for us to solicit our slot in their schedule, we need to sign an agreement that says that we have the funding and the approval to do so. So like he said, if we get your approval tonight, the soonest they can be here is May. So while it's, yes, an emergency, and then we need to do it ASAP, the soonest ASAP is May. Partially because they need to get in the tank, partially because that's what their schedule allows. And as far as proprietary, it is a proprietary thing, like he said. Statewide Aqua Store is the one that installed the thing. They are the, as far as I know, the only ones remotely in this general northeast facility area, or northeast area, that does this type of work. So, that is why there's no bid process.
The suggested motion has a blank after funding to come from,
So
so.
I just found out what the account was.
Oh, okay.
So this funding will be coming from the water department capital improvements account.
Oh, okay. Move to approve the request of the water department to allow the statewide aqua store to make the necessary repairs to the State Street water tank in the amount of $56,800, funding to come from, I'm sorry?
Capital improvements.
The capital improvements for the water department?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the numbers you'll
65,
need are.
65,
Yep. go for it.
370, 55011.
Okay.
Did
As
Did Tony get
Reggie
that?
said.
That's the general ledger account.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed?
Thank you.
Motion passes. Item 16, discussion and potential action on support of, to a warm, what? Is it getting late? To warm a winter's night fundraiser sponsored by Councilor Hanson.
Yeah, so we learned about this event that is happening to support people in our community who are unable to heat their homes this winter, which has been a big drastic change. We learned about it at the last meeting, but we were too late to be able to make it an agenda item, so now it is an agenda item so that we can actually vote on it. Would you like
Thank
to?
you. So, good evening. My name is Sharon Cadis. I am the Development Director for Downey's Community Partners. If you don't know who Downey's Community Partners is, that might be because about 5 years ago, we went through a merger. We were formerly WHCA, which is what a lot of people still think of us as. And so we merged with Child Family Opportunities with WHCA, and we are now Downey's Community Partners. So, yeah, thank you, Councilor Hanson, for that introduction. So the good news is that we have something fun coming up with a very serious, however, undertone. So we are doing a benefit, a fundraiser for what we call the THAW Fund, and that is an acronym for the Heating and Warmth Fund. This is a 100% donor-funded fund that is not, there's no government money involved. The application process or the approval process is much easier. It is where people come when they're desperate. So the THAW Fund steps in when you have less than 2 weeks worth of fuel in your tank, or the equivalent if you heat with wood pellets or if you heat with propane. So it's our emergency fund, and it has been very, very strapped this year. Thus the fun fundraiser that we're having at the Grand. So everybody saw Nick and his little grand standing tonight. And this is a event that we're hoping folks come out to the Grand and support. We have broad community support from local businesses who are donating items to our silent auction that will also happen that night. And the performers are local. Chris Ross, who's a Hancock boy, Carolyn Cotter, who hails from Ellsworth, and the Fogtown Family Band. And actually coming up from Belfast is Smokin' Mojo. They're a blues band from Belfast. So it's going to be a fabulous night, but we were asking for support from the city of Ellsworth, hoping that you would see the value in helping Ellsworth residents in particular. And by that I mean specifically, we can earmark your gift so that it just, your sponsorship, your donation to the THAW Fund, specifically for Ellsworth residents. So the need is up 400%, I think I said that last time, in 2 years. So last year it was 200% over the year before. This year we are definitely on track to be at least 200% over what we were last, which just absolutely takes my breath away. And it's something that we deal with every day at DCP. So the phone rings on average in the heating department every 4 minutes. And the need is just astounding. 94% of the people approaching us are seniors. So they're working off of fixed incomes, can't make that stretch. I heard somebody say something about the rising cost of everything. Well, that's an issue if you're on a fixed income. So this fund is very critical, very much a part of supporting Ellsworth. Of course, we, as a agency, do span the entire Hancock County and Washington County as well. And so we have, since November 1st, when the Thaw Fund opened, and this is last week's figures, so it's not up to date as today, but we had dispersed over $194,000 just from this donor-funded fund from November 1st to last week. Over 17,000 of that came to the city of Ellsworth alone. So your average that we're seeing for Ellsworth residents specifically and their fuel vendors was 500 and something a person. So $548.39 per person in need for just the emergency, like, help me get through. So the Thaw Fund typically disperses 100 gallons of emergency heating oil. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an overview. I had included some things that I hope made it to you, to your packet, and I'd love to answer any questions you have.
Does the city give money to our own Thaw Fund that we have? Do we put money in the budget for what we do? So
You get donations, right?
we get donations.
Donation, the cans.
And the cans.
And the no ties.
And the no ties. That's right.
And then also the General Assistance Director, Katina Howes, she actually coordinates and has this big silent auction that we've been doing for the last few years and does a great job doing it and bringing in funds for the exact same thing for those people that don't meet general assistance guidelines, but they, you know, you're in between, you don't have enough, but you don't meet those guidelines, so.
So the Thaw Fund actually, you know, if you qualify for those benefits, if you qualify for LIHEAP, or that's what most people know of it as, we also call it HEAP, but when those funds are expended, that's where the thaw kicks in often. Well, this year we're having to bookend both ends of that government funded. So it's a federal fund, HEAP, that comes to the state, to Maine State Housing, and then is dispersed through your CAP agencies such as ourselves. But as you pointed out, there are people who are on the shoulders, who don't necessarily qualify for that, or just find themselves in an emergency situation, or they're either waiting on a HEAP appointment, or they've already expended those HEAP benefits. And the need is so great this year that we're finding that we need to bookend anything in for the HEAP in the middle. So your General Assistance Fund, I put that information in the packet. What I read was that the General Assistance Fund, at least for FY22, was $60,185. I saw a heat line for $5,650. Is that the line you're referencing? No, okay. Okay.
This is above and beyond. That's for
Okay.
people that don't qualify. It's what you're talking about.
Okay. What is
We
that
do our
fund
own.
as far as amount? Do you know?
It's not funded by the city, it's all
Okay.
donations and the auction that's held here at City Hall.
So again, $17,486.60 $0.60 have already been dispersed to Ellsworth residents from our solely donor-funded fund. Of the 80 pending apps today, about 9 of them, 10 of them are for Ellsworth residents. So those, we're processing those as fast as possible. But this is an ongoing need from not just the wider county, but Ellsworth residents themselves. So I was hoping that you'd be willing to support us for a $1,000 donation. Yes.
So the reason I wanted to add this back to this agenda, because I think, oops,
What did you do?
normally we would be talking about funding Downey's Community Partners in our budget process, but this feels like an emergency to me, and it seems like it feels like an emergency both to the Ellsworth general assistance and what you're seeing in terms of need. And so it just feels important that the city and the city council acknowledge how hard this winter is, and we just had this cold snap last week. And I mean, just in my job as a family doctor, I am hearing people struggle more this year than normal, so it feels like a moral imperative to me. $1,000 doesn't actually seem like that much money as a way to just give an acknowledgement of what a hard year this has been. I know we don't have, we would have to decide where this $1,000 would come from, so my suggestion would be to take it from the undesignated fund balance. Just acknowledge that we spent $1 million of that in October to renovate the new police department, and so it seems like a pretty small amount of money to acknowledge the hard time that our citizens are having this year. So I'm just strongly in favor of giving this $1,000, appreciating what both our General Assistance Department and Downey's Community Partners does for many of our citizens who are just, particularly like you said, 94% from seniors in our community who are struggling this year. It feels emergent to me, and it feels necessary to me.
Thank you for that.
So, and I don't disagree with anything you just said. The place that I'm trying to reconcile is the other needs that are just as emergent. We have a growing number of people who are experiencing homelessness, living in encampments in the city. We have seniors that have other needs. And so my question that I'm trying to wrestle with is, we make this approval off the budget cycle. What about the next request that comes in that's just as equally important and equally urgent? How do we reconcile that? And as far as the heating is concerned, general assistance, the budget is an expanding budget. General assistance is not fixed. It's state law. We're required as a town to provide the general assistance when people meet that. So I certainly think that we have to encourage and utilize those resources to their fullest and make sure that people understand that they have access to it. So that's, for me, that's what I'm thinking right now, and I'm throwing that out there so that there can be some discussion to maybe evolve my thinking on that. But that's what I wrestle with at this point.
I'm looking over, I'm sorry. I'm looking over, thanks for including this general assistance budget, because I hadn't seen it. You included the yearly budget totals from fiscal year 19 to 22, and it looks like the total budget from 2020 to 2021 does increase by about 20%, and then again to 2022 it increases by 0.75%. The heating component of that budget is $5,650. Anyway, that 20% is not nothing, but it's certainly not the 200% need increase in this area that you're talking about 2 years in a row, and certainly not from 2021 to 2022. So, yeah, worth discussing how we get to that place where general assistance can cover that. But in the meantime, having a local partner who can earmark city funds directly to citizens for a need that the general assistance fund should be covering but is not, seems like something we should be covering. To your second point, I don't know if it necessarily opens the floodgates to any and all, nonprofit organizations. I think we're capable of managing on a case-by-case basis when we see that organizations with low overhead can cover things that the city should be covering, but is not covering, and they can do so essentially saving us money because they can do it more efficiently. Their organization is set up for it. They have a lower staffing overhead. I think that is a distinction here.
I just would like to correct you in your statement that the city should and doesn't, because we do. We cover through our funds and through the general assistant funds, those folks who qualify for general assistance, which are not our parameters, they're not our rules, they're the state's. We just have to go by them. And then through our own funds that have been either donated or raised by city staff, people who come to us in need, many actually come from DCP, referred to the city, and then the city does take care of those folks with those funds, so.
And that referral goes the other way as well.
Yep.
We value our partnership with Tina House, and definitely there is that conversation back and forth. Can you cover this? Can we, what are we, how are we working that out? But we do absorb quite a bit as your community action program.
Yep.
And I think it's safe to say that we definitely reduce the strain on your general assistance.
In fact, I think Katina said that to us the last time she gave her presentation last budget season, that the partnership was really valuable to helping the citizens. I also think any decision we make about money that we spend, if we think about all the other things we could be spending it on, we would paralyze ourselves. So at some point, we just have to make a decision. And again, this feels necessary to me.
Councilor O'Connell.
I've been through one budget process as a city councilor. And when I heard all of the requests for donations to certain causes, as a counselor, I'd like to find a way to give to everybody. But I'm really challenged with the taxpayer paying into the city and the city paying out to the cause. Not just your cause, every cause. The taxpayer is taxed, and I think that the taxpayer is perfectly capable of donating to the cause that they wish. For example, I choose not to wear a tie, so I pay $20 to the city's fund, not to wear a tie at the meeting, that goes to the heating fund, okay? And I think citizens are capable of donating their own money. I don't think we should tax citizens and then decide where we gift that. And it's nothing against your organization. I just think that the citizens are perfectly capable of donating their own money to their own causes. And I'm not against your cause or anybody else's, but it's really hard for me to tax a citizen and then give the money away. That's tough for me.
So maybe it will help if I tell you that in the last fiscal year, the total value of services provided to Hancock and Washington County was over $14 million by Down East Community Partners. $2,824,142.72 was directly to the city of Ellsworth. So we provide, as you probably know, or maybe you don't, a wide spectrum of services to the city, everything from 24,000 rides to the city of Ellsworth residents, to maternal child health, to aging in place services, to weatherization. Someone talked about weatherization.
So I want to be careful that we don't get off track.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we're not-
absolutely.
We're talking about this fund.
We are.
And that's what we want to stay focused on
Yep.
this evening.
I'm just trying to say there is a benefit we do provide a benefit to the city of Ellsworth and its residents. And I think it's a pretty magnanimous benefit.
Well, I imagine too, a family that can wake up in a warm house is more likely to go to work and buy things and spend things and contribute to the tax burden of the city as well.
Would work in Ellsworth. What's in the COVID fund right now? $700,000?
The opera?
The ARPA fund, yeah.
Yeah.
$1,000 out of it is gonna break a bank. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not sure we could, yeah.
So, we do have an issue here, and we have a policy that we have, you know, for helping people, but at this point, people are suffering from not being able to heat their homes, and I know when I get my bill, and I can almost afford it, you know, and it is tough. But if, I do strongly feel that if we give $1,000 to DCP, that we ought to give $1,000 to the fund that the staff puts together, because they work really, really hard to be able to bring that money in, and to give it to someone else and not support them, I don't think is right. So if we're, it's not, I don't feel that we should be talking about $1,000 with $2,000.
I would happily support that.
Councilman?
I could absolutely support that, so.
Especially if the money can
Yeah.
be put towards Ellsworth.
Mhm.
Where does the money come from?
I suggested the undesignated fund balance.
General fund.
Yeah.
But when we do our budget.
It's a really visible, the event is going to be really visible, and I think it would show a lot that the city, you know, this is sort of a sponsorship as well, right? So it would mean a lot, I think, to citizens to see that the city is supporting it.
And I will say that Tammy's, our law firm is actually doing a fundraiser for you. When you came.
We start bingo tomorrow, I think, yeah.
No, next week. because
That was
of-
the next, yeah, the next
So we
week.
started a bingo that we're gonna do to raise money for you. So understanding, I mean, I used to be on the board for DCP, and.
The need is so profound
It
this
is,
year.
so understanding
It
that.
just-
So let me ask you a question, going back to the concern that I raised earlier. Taking your idea, what would prevent, the concern that I have is doing this off budgets and not having that vetting. But what if we took the $2,000, provided it to the city fund, and I just heard that the city staff work very well with DCP, and there can be that coordination of effort so that the resources get to the people that need to, then we're not stepping outside of that process that I'm concerned about, yet we're creating the same amount of access and funding, and they can work jointly together.
As John pointed out, I think it would be, I mean, part of this is also just communicating to the city how much we value our community partners. They're gonna be across the street in 2 weeks, announcing that the city has partnered with them. I just think that's really, to me, that's just worth it, communication-wise. We can funnel money here, but this is more than just money. It's also an acknowledgement and communication and cooperation with community organizations, and that feels worth more than $2,000, honestly, to me.
Councilman?
Do we use the same vendor, or do we have the pricing that we get for our heating fuel through the general assistance? Do you know?
She uses vendors based on who owns tanks.
Oh, right.
And then if the homeowner or the resident owns the tank, then she'll try to get the lowest, and oftentimes the city's heat provider will honor our rate
Okay.
for that.
So my next question to you, do you have like an economies of scale if you buy more? Are you getting specialized pricing?
We are getting specialized pricing.
Okay.
That's correct. We make it stretches. When I talked to the Hancock County Commissioners, who did actually donate to us through their ARPA funding, I believe, to help. In particular, they are earmarked them for seniors. They wanted specifically to not have members of their community who are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s be cold. So they voted to support, and I had to explain to them that, yes, we do get that preferential pricing, and we do, as was explained, negotiate based on, who is your vendor, and because all of that has to be corroborated. Even when you're calling in a crisis, you have to corroborate with the story, that you're getting with, to make sure that it is truly an emergency situation. I mean, this is the emergency fund.
I have a question, just because I've not been through a budget cycle. Would this be something that for other organizations or even for this organization would be appropriate in subsequent years to go through the yearly budget appropriations? And this is just sort of an anomalous.
Yeah, I would encourage you to, when that goes, I think you get a notification.
Well, and they did last year.
Well, but don't you usually do it for DCP, or do you do it for the thaw fund?
No, for DCP.
I would encourage you to do it for a specific fund like that.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
we did, I don't know if we still do, but we used to have a policy that spoke to what we actually gave to in the budget. So, I'm not sure if we still do, but we used to, and that would be
Well, and
perfect for that.
as a donor, you can always, whether you're giving personally or otherwise, earmark it and direct it where you want it. So if thaw is where you want it, that's absolutely something that we can do.
We've definitely done that in the past.
And you can earmark it specific to just your residents. That's the other thing. The town of Castine does it every year.
Yeah, makes sense.
So is there a motion?
Move to give funds to the DCP Thaw Fund in the amount of $1,000 earmarked for Ellsworth residents, and to give a matching fund of $1,000 to our own general assistance, I don't know what it's called. It's not general assistance.
Emergency fuel fund.
Yeah, emergency fuel fund to be funded from the general fund, right?
I'll second that.
That's my motion.
Motion a second. Further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the work you do.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so we're going to do item 17, and then, given the length of the agenda, we'll take a quick stretch break.
Grab a beer.
That was our secret. All right, so item 17, determination of where funding requests should go for social service versus recreational. I sponsored this item, very similar to what we're talking about. Let you introduce it.
Matt Williams, city planner, the staff member who works with the Recreation Commission.
So this is, it's been a chronic issue in terms of how we look at organizations and where they get vetted, and it's been an evolving process. The Recreational Commission has really come together. We have some great community members who are very enthusiastic. They participate actively in the committee, and it's taken a while to get that commission really working well. And in that process, last year was really the year that they were vetting requests from the community for funding in terms of recreational activities. What happened, though, is that there's this fine line between what is a recreational activity that the commission has a budget and authorizes versus a social service nonprofit request. And there's this gray area. And so some requests were coming their way that they looked at and said, not really sure that this fits recreation. It's really more social service. So the commission is really asking some clarity about who should they be vetting so that they can come back and make recommendations to us as we look at the budget And then we look at the social service organizations separate. And there's really no clarity about that. So this was an attempt to put the issue on the table. I don't think that we're going to resolve it this evening, but wanted to raise the question so that we could create some understanding and/or ask the Rec Commission to define recreational activities. So that could be another approach that we take. So that's the context of this issue.
Yeah, the Recreation Commission's ordinance is very broad in what they technically can fund, but I think they're trying to narrow down what they actually do take care of, particularly like the physical fields and facilities that are used for recreation within the city.
Matt, what are the types of requests that they get that they feel are more social services?
I actually can't speak to that because I wasn't here during the budget session last year, but I know that the members on the commission who were have spoken that they weren't sure if they were allowed to give those certain groups money, or there are groups that didn't know about the opportunity to apply to get money that are recreation based, and so they were just trying to find a way to balance those two concerns that could come up.
Sorry, I think one of them was the snowmobile club.
The snowmobile club was one.
But which I would consider recreational, and we're getting funds from the state, or, well, the residents are paying for a fee to register their snowmobile, so, and it is recreational. I don't know of any other ones. That was just the one that he had mentioned when he was here.
Some of the sporting leagues and.
I can give one example for this year. I'm also the staff member who works with the Historic Preservation Commission, and it seemed that last year they had to make a request to the Recreation Commission to get funding, even though they're their own standing commission.
Don't they have their own budget?
But the budget request went through the Recreation Commission. I'm not sure why, but.
I'm not sure why either.
Oh,
In the budget folder for last year under recreation was Acadia Fire Football, Ellsworth Arts, Ellsworth Community Music, Ellsworth Concert Band, Ellsworth Little League, Grand, and the YMCA, if that helps.
And part of the big larger issue with that is that with the social service organizations, there's a general understanding that most of those organizations serve a wider community, not just Ellsworth residents, and the Rec Commission is specific to Ellsworth and activities for Ellsworth residents, and so it gets a little unclear. And we ended up vetting it in different groups, and that's what made it confusing, so.
So the grant, I think, was under recreation because that was the partnership with the downtown, down the harbor, gosh, I'm getting tired.
So within
The waterfront concerts, thank you.
Right, yeah, and they were Shakespeare in the Park.
And Shakespeare in the
Programming,
Park.
vacation movies and summer concerts.
Yeah,
were
so
all,
that
like,
was,
within there.
right, and that was under the recreation, because it was actually the Recreation Commission that created that programming.
Yeah.
And plus what we used to, I don't know if we still do them, the theater,
The movies at the park.
movies at the park.
Yep.
Those were all things that were brought to the city by the Recreation Commission. So that's why those are there. And then social services has its own policy, so those shouldn't be anything to do with recreation. Nor should, the Harbor Commission used to have, and the Historic Preservation Commission had their own budgets.
Right,
They
we
do.
should.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay. It's been a long time since I would think about budget.
Well, I was gonna say, a related but unrelated thing was also, and I'm just like picking this out of my brain, that there was that whole section where we were thinking about social services, right? That got really confusing, and then the chamber was in there also, where I was like,
And that should
that
be
didn't make any
development.
sense, so it will be nice to clarify the groups,
Yeah.
and have separate decisions.
I don't know that it's social services so much as it's outside requests are kind
Is
of
that what it
lumped
was
together.
And it was in a miscellaneous item. I think it was the chamber, downtown, Heart of Ellsworth. I think there was like 3 or 4.
That's been funneled through.
They were all on that same page, I feel like, it was
Maybe that's the problem, is
confusing.
that they ought to be separated a
Yeah,
little bit more.
that's, so a question, do you think that's something that the staff might be able to kind of take the first crack at just defining it a little bit clearer, and then give that back to the Recreation Commission as well as the council, so that we'll at least have something to go by, and just to try to clarify that? Because I think if If we try to do it,
Yeah.
we'll be talking about this
Sounds like
next.
it's more in the
Till
budget
tomorrow
budget
morning.
presentation that it's confusing.
Good idea.
Yeah, I think
that's an excellent idea, Glenn.
Good job, yeah.
Good idea.
Well, I know last year, in last year's budget, we did try to group like entities and organizations together more so than we had in the past to try to, so it made sense, so it flowed. So, I mean, we can still continue to work on refining that for sure.
Great.
Is the idea that it would be a lot quicker and easier for the council if, say, 50% of those that were deemed to be recreation went to the Recreation Commission for vetting, and then we just saw their overall?
Well,
budget?
it's really more that, so when I put together the manager's budget, for those outside entity requests, I don't adjust those. I don't do anything to those. I just submit those as is, as they ask. So with the Rec Commission vetted them and made changes and then made that recommendation to the council. With the other groups, like the Chamber and Friends in Action and those, when they come in, if they ask for $1,000, that's what you get in your budget book, because I firmly believe that that's the council's decision and the council's priority and authority to make the decision, look at exactly what was asked by the specific agency, and then make a decision where you want to fund. And so you get exactly what we get. And so we tried to group those together to make it a little bit easier to understand. And like I said, we can continue to work on refining those groups and those putting the like entities together, so when you get it. But what you're gonna get is gonna be exactly what they requested, what they asked for.
And having the Rec Commission involved in vetting those requests they're closer to those types of activities in terms of what's happening in the city. And we ask this group of volunteers to come together. So giving them the ability to say to the city, here's what we recommend based on everything that we're seeing and doing, it made a lot more sense than just having those entities come to the full council, because it loses that focal point in terms of what we need for recreation, so. All right, ready for a 5?
So I think, did you have a question?
Cara Romano, Executive Director of Heart of Ellsworth, our downtown organization. I just have a question from the perspective of an organization that each year drafts a letter of a request for appropriations. Some organizations have some activities, initiatives that fall under one category and have in the past been perceived by council as one thing, and then other things that are clearly other things. So it would be probably beneficial if it's possible, and I understand that may seem last minute, because we're just talking about this now and budget season is here. But wondering if the entities that have presented in the past and have put in requests, that we could understand what category we fall under according to you folks, so that we're putting forth our requests clear, concise, and we know where it is that we fall. I will just use our own organization as an example. So every year we pay dues to the main downtown center and National Main Street to be part of both of those entities. And we've also in the past requested money to support different events that we've done in the downtown. So those two things, one thing is kind of administrative, and then another thing is kind of sort of a recreation fund sort of type of thing. Last year, to my recollection, our total budget was not, or our total request was not funded. Only the part of our request that we received was by the recommendation of the Rec Commission. The other things were not funded. So we sort of don't know every year that we put our request in if we're really phrasing things the correct way, organizing things the correct way, and we try to do our best to make it very simple for you folks and to do pages of budgets and examples and data and all that sort of stuff. But every year I feel like we miss the mark on presenting ourselves clearly to you folks in a concise way that you're able to digest, organize, and know that you are using the funds in the proper way that is going to be perceived as folks in the community as being responsible fiduciary agents of the funds that you're
gifting, or however you want to phrase it, that's going out to the community. Am I making myself clear with where we're coming from? And
Yes, which
okay.
is why Manager Moshe is going to give us a list of.
I'm gonna fix it all.
And I just want to say that was not a work directive from me. Thank you. Thank you.
You've reinforced the point.
I wonder
Thank
if
you.
Maine Municipal Association has a template for applications for appropriations that are grouped? Maybe
Yeah,
some
we
other
have
towns?
an application, and I was actually just looking at the social services policy, and it actually specifies Ellsworth residents. I don't know that that's gonna help us, like, define Friends of Action versus the recreation softball league or something. But I can compile a list with Glenn of what I think should go where.
We'll work on it.
Okay. All right, well, we will
Perfect.
take a short break till 8:30. We'll reconvene
That's
then.
like 2 minutes.
8:30 is good.
No, this
Oh,
is
that-
like,
that
no,
clock's
this-
wrong.
that's-
8:30 is 45 minutes out of
But we
Portland.
still couldn't go in 2021 because of
Yeah, big work.
issues over there,
And
especially
we're
with
back,
Ireland.
so
Yeah.
we are back.
Pound it.
That's
So,
right, right. Don't put yourself in that position again, right?
Item 18, discussion and possible action on separating the city manager, chief of police into two positions held by two individual people at the end of the current contract in place that expires 1/16/2024, sponsored by Councilor O'Halloran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is about a position, not a person. I have spoke publicly about this before. I would like to see the city of Ellsworth divide those positions to have one city manager and one chief of police. The reason for that is I find the lines are very blurred. This council is supposed to go through the city manager for any communications. He then goes to the department heads or employees or what have you. And I find that a difficult process when we have one person holding both positions. It's hard to figure out if this one person is talking about, and it's not this person, it's the position. Is he acting as a police chief, or is he acting as a city manager? The city of Ellsworth has had a city manager and a police chief for several years. I think that, I want to bring this up now because there's 1 year left on the contract, and I don't want surprises. And again, clear communications and clear lines. Having one person do both jobs is not clear. The lines are blurred. And I would like to see us work towards dividing those two positions like they have been in the past. Again, we're not talking about the person, we're talking about the position.
So I would just comment, I think it's entirely premature for this council to have engaged in this discussion. I also think it's somewhat inappropriate. The contract is in place for another year. This council is not the council that's going to be determining any contract negotiations going forward. This is not the council. We cannot bind the next council from making decisions around that. And I think it creates an atmosphere that is not positive. I don't think this is the right forum for this discussion at this time. Councilor Allen.
I would like to counter that and say, you know, I don't think it's fair to run up into negotiations without at least some discussion about that. If the council doesn't want to act on it, that's fine, but it's certainly unfair to run right up to the period of time and then spring that on everybody involved. That's why I bring it before you tonight.
I hear that. What I'm saying is that in November, there's an election, and the composition of the council at that time is going to be different. And that is the group that will negotiate any contract going forward. So that's my point, is that we can have all the discussion we want, but it isn't going to get decided until the new council is seated, and that's when the discussions can happen. So I personally feel that by trying to have this discussion now, there's no decision that can be made, and there's no there's no binding decision that can be made. There's a contract firmly in place, and that doesn't change until negotiations begin, and that won't happen until there's a new council.
If I may, I'd just also like to add that, since it is me that we're talking about, that I do have some say in this, and I've never indicated that I would be pursuing another contract as police chief and city manager. So I think there's some assumptions being made that I would even entertain continuing to do this. Those of you who are here now were not here when this decision was made to put me into this position. And I was asked repeatedly to do it. It wasn't anything that I pursued or that I was even remotely interested in initially, until after many conversations with a lot of counselors and staff, the decision was made that it was at the time, what was best for the city. And I stand by that decision, and I think the counselors who were here would agree with that it was what was best. We were in the middle of a global pandemic, a crisis unlike anything that anyone had ever experienced before in our lifetimes. And the city needed consistency, and they needed management from somebody who they trusted and knew. And I happened to be that person. And my contract ends in January of '24 for my current contract. And I will assure you that if I do come to the conclusion that I no longer want to continue on in this role, then I will give the council at that time plenty of advance notice to begin the process to find a suitable replacement.
Which will take months.
That's why I brought it up tonight.
And I look out there and I see every chair empty but 4. If people really cared that much, this place would have been packed to the hills. So I'm pretty sure that most normal people sitting out watching TV or whatever really don't care that he's doing both jobs, because he's done a great job in my book. So, in my opinion, I am so glad that I was one of those people that begged you just about to do both jobs. So
Again, it's not the person.
Well, it is.
I'm talking about the position.
But it's probably, you're right, it's not the appropriate time, and we should just table it until December of 2023.
Councilor Stein.
Yeah, I agree it's not the appropriate time to make any motion or decision, but I think we have to entertain a discussion, whether it's from another counselor or whether it's from a citizen, because it is and has been a hot button topic, whether you're for or against. It was asked during the Meet the Candidates. It was something that I talked about. Obviously, I'm in a different position now than when I was running, but it is important to a lot of people. I believe it's the responsibility of people in power to justify that power, and when a person holds 2 positions, even doubly so. So, you know, whether or not it's right, whether it's wrong, we're not going to change it at this point. We are where we are, but I think we have to have the patience. You know, we've committed to it, and we have to meet those questions with justification and with patience, and, you know, prove that for those who don't trust the process, basically earn their trust, prove their trust. And, you know, it might be inconvenient, it might be painful or annoying, but to have the patience to meet those questions from citizens when they are new to town and ask, why is this sort of a rarity and why is it occurring here? There are reasons, and we need to not be afraid of discussing the situation as it is.
Any other comments? Councilor O'Halloran.
I might add that in my discussion, I clearly said at the end of the existing contract, which ended 1/16/24, I'm not by any way suggesting anything quicker. I'm saying we've got to get this out here. It's going to be, it'll be here before we know it.
Other comments? Seeing none, we will go into 19, executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA, Chapter 4056, A, for personnel matters, to conduct employee review. Maine revised statutes allows bodies or agencies to hold private executive sessions under certain criteria. These types of private proceedings do not include any decision-making, motions, or final authority. They are discussion only. The purpose under the law for such proceeding related to personnel is to protect individuals' reputation, right to privacy, employment conditions, evaluation, and other personnel-related topics. Is there a motion?
Move to go into executive session.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? We're going into executive session, and we will be coming out of executive session.